Hello, everybody. Welcome. I think we are now live on Facebook. Oh, maybe now we're live. I'm Julie Flygar, and I am the president and CEO of Project Sleep, and I'm here in Los Angeles. We have a very special guest tonight with us, Kêta. Say hello.
Hello.
And where are you joining us from?
I am joining you guys from Atlanta.
Awesome. Okay.
Clear across the country, basically.
Country. We got both sides of the country. So thank you guys for joining as people are finding the video. I'll just give a few quick Project Sleep updates and reminders. So let's see, we did this 2 weeks ago. What's new? I don't think too much, actually. We are working through the Rising Voices 2020 program. So right now, a whole new group of speaking trainees are being trained on giving presentations like the one that Kêta is going to give tonight. So it's really, really fun. And I guess from my perspective, it's just such a big reminder of how important every single person's story is. Like, I've heard a lot of different people of narcolepsy stories, and you start working on someone new, and then once again, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is just so exciting, and everyone has such unique ways of explaining things and describing their experiences. So it's just such a joy to be working with a whole new class of trainees, and I think that's mostly what's happening. We're working a lot on preparing for World Narcolepsy Day, which is going to be September 22nd. So we're getting ready to get some things out to you as far as resources that you can share and activities that you can do from home, of course, this year, especially very, virtual kind of engagement this year will be big. And then we will have a lot of advocacy this fall coming up. So please stay tuned for some advocacy work in the fall to reach out to your legislatures. But I will have lots more on that this fall. So I think with that, we will go ahead and get started with tonight's program. Before Kêta gives her presentation, just a quick reminder that as Kêta is sharing her story, if anything is resonating with you, like definitely type in on Facebook in comments. And Kêta and I won't be able to see that during the broadcast, but it's really fun to go back afterwards and see what you guys were chatting about and what resonated with you from her presentation. And if you can please type in where you're viewing this from, that's really fun too, to see all the different places that people are watching from tonight. Also, if any questions come up as Kêta is speaking, please remember that we can't give medical advice. So if anything about Kêta's experience sparks questions for you about your own medical situation, please bring those questions to your doctor or your sleep specialist. But if you have questions that you'd like to hear more about Kêta's experience and anything she shares tonight, please make sure to save those questions for the end. We will take questions at the end of her presentation. So I think that's it for the housekeeping. Am I forgetting anything? I don't think so. We're just really excited to be here. So with that, I think I will go ahead and get Kêta's slides up and introduce her. Okay, let me put this in slideshow mode.
I've never done a Zoom on a Facebook Live, so that's so cool that you can do that.
Yes. And you know what? Now I don't have your bio up, so hold on. Sorry. We're learning together. Okay. Let me introduce you first. Okay. Kêta is a professional songwriter for Sony ATV, traveling between Los Angeles and Atlanta for her work. She was diagnosed with narcolepsy with cataplexy at age 17. And now, as a Rising Voices of Narcolepsy trained speaker, she is educating audiences about what it is actually like to have narcolepsy while encouraging them to dream big and live full lives. And you can learn more by finding her on Twitter and Instagram as This Is Kêta, and you definitely should follow her. I love following your activities on the gram, which is my favorite place. Okay, now let me try to go back and find how to share the slides again. Try this again. All right, Kêta, take it away.
Alrighty, well, like Julie said, my name is Kêta. I am 22 years old and I'm living in the Atlanta area. It's so exciting for me to be able to do this. I have such a heart for Project Sleep, and I would like to consider Julie a friend, even through narcolepsy. Obviously, we have that connection, but she's just an amazing person. So, thank you so much for inviting me to do this. I'm like been really excited about it. So, I'm excited because any opportunity to share your story just empowers the person giving the story firsthand, but also we're spreading awareness, we're helping people get diagnosed, we're answering questions, things to that nature. So it's always such an honor to be able to share my story and really valuable information as well. So I'm going to start with like my childhood a little bit. I live with my incredible family. We have a little dog, Woozle, and we have this psycho cat. Her name is Guru. She definitely is not a guru by any means. My parents, Keisha and John, are both really artistic, cool people first, but they're also high school sweethearts, and they're grossly in love with each other still, which is such a blessing to be able to say that one, my parents are together, but that they're like teenagers still when it comes to their reactions with each other. And then I'm the oldest of two girls. Lucy is 19 and Livy is 17. And honestly, they're two of the coolest people I've ever encountered in my life. And to be able to say that my sisters are just super cool people that I love being around is something kind of crazy these days. But in addition to that, we were all homeschooled since like first grade. So the fact that we get along so well is even more of a miracle. I'm originally from an area that the locals call Kentuckiana. It's basically the area of Louisville, Kentucky that's separated by the Ohio River to southern Indiana. When I was 10 years old, I was diagnosed with chronic Lyme's disease. Some people are familiar with Lyme disease. I'd been very sick and in chronic pain for almost a year before the diagnosis came. And then in addition to that diagnosis, I got diagnosed with a spine condition called syringomyelia, which is very rare, and also fibromyalgia. So I guess I'm special to some degree. I've been living more than half of my life now looking healthy while experiencing severe symptoms daily. And in the early days when I was first diagnosed with Lyme, things were pretty awful. Some days I was unable to wash my own hair without assistance. I had to scoot up and down the stairs in our house. I was using a cane for mobility, even just around my own home. And you have to kind of consider that I was around the age of like 10 to 12 years old during this time. So there was times when I was practically bedridden. I fought physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually for about 4 solid years to be able to become the person that I am today and be where I am today. So it's been quite the journey. By the time I was 14 years old, I started feeling like I could pursue the dreams that I had since I can remember, which would be making music and connecting and inspiring others, which I'm blessed to say that I'm doing. This led to writing music, which led to my album, which led to this crazy ride that has now become my life. In 2012, when I was 14, I moved to the suburbs of Indianapolis because my dad got transferred. And while I was living there, I started writing music for the first time, and I connected with a producer, an amazing songwriter in LA online, and started writing my first album via Skype. And then once my album was complete, we flew out from Indiana to LA to cut vocals, did a photo shoot, shot my first music video, and all of that really fun stuff. But not long after that, my life just took a radical turn for the better. Upon completion of my first album, which actually were the first 10 songs I had ever written in my life, we got shocking news that a major record label was interested in signing me. So it was just one thing after another. And everyone says a record label deal doesn't happen like they do in the movies, where it's like you're just minding your own business and you answer the phone and it's like some major person at some label telling you they want to change your life. But in my case, it did. Basically, the phone rang at our house, and when my dad answered it, it was Capitol Records. And they flew me and my family out to LA, and the rest is history. I was barely 16. I literally took a red-eye flight from my 16th birthday party to Los Angeles, and I never slept in my bed in Indiana again. I was signed to management, Capitol Records, Sony ATV Music Publishing, and Creative Artist Agency. And my first assignment was to open up on tour with Sam Smith. So the whole experience was pretty intense. We like to joke and say that it was like an initiation into a gang or something crazy like that, where it's like every like curveball was thrown and every punch was thrown, and you're like dodging the bullets as they come, just rolling with the flow. So it was an insane experience, and I reflect on it a lot. And after tour, I continued performing regularly out at various venues in LA, such as the House of Blues before it got tore down, the Mint, Hotel Cafe, things like that. Over the years, though, I had this untamable extreme sleepiness and other unexplained symptoms that had just developed or grown. I was falling asleep literally everywhere. Waiting rooms before industry meetings, recording studios, backstage, riding in a car, basically. Anytime I was in a car for longer than 5 minutes, I would be out. So it was anywhere, anytime. Restaurants, didn't matter. There were even times when I would fall asleep mid-conversation. And I can remember my manager making comments like, this will come in handy when she's on tour, because artists basically are sleep deprived anyway. So if she can fall asleep anywhere, it'll serve her well when we're on the road. So each passing day, more and more photos of me sleeping kind of accumulated into photo albums. And I got crowned Sleeping Beauty by my team and my family. So in addition to this intense sleepiness, I started to experience a very strange sensation when I would laugh. And it was really hard to describe to others because I didn't understand it myself. And this was extra strange because living with other chronic diagnoses with very long lists of symptoms, when you have a completely new one pop up, you're kind of like, okay, well, I've been living for quite a long time, never had experienced this, something must be up. So it was like I was like, maybe I wasn't getting enough air to my head, or like a weird lightheadedness, and I'd have this feeling like my knees were going to give out, or I was just losing control of my body. And we initially attributed it to, like I said, these long lists of symptoms that already exist. So maybe it was Lyme, or maybe it was a fibro issue, but after a while it was becoming very prominent that it was something more serious and that it needed to be addressed. I want to say October 2015, I was 17. I was coming back from a music video shoot for my boyfriend at the time, who was also an artist. And we were walking down the long concrete hallway in my apartment complex. And it was like probably 3 a.m, regular entertainment industry hours. And like any normal human, we were all kind of slap happy and everything was funny. We were just like losing our minds. And I started to laugh. And next thing I know, my body just wasn't being a proper body anymore. And I was experiencing what I would soon discover to be my first full body paralysis cataplexy episode. As I started to fall, my mom and my boyfriend, man, I'm getting cold chills like saying it, but my mom and my boyfriend actually thankfully braced the impact between me and the concrete. And I landed flat on my back. And I remember thinking, the concrete was so cold. It was just like 1 minute I was, just operating as usual. And then I was like on the ground on cold concrete. And I remember just kind of being like, okay, this is weird. And I couldn't move and I couldn't speak. And my legs were both bent behind me very uncomfortably. And I can remember hearing my mom's voice. She's like a stoic, so she was very calm and collected. Plus, we're used to just random symptoms popping up here and there. But she's like, I don't know if you can hear me, and I don't know if there's anything you can actually even do. But if there is, like, somehow internally compose yourself or what have you to get up if possible. And I was so appreciative of her tone and her composure with every word, because I was flipping out inside of my body. But you wouldn't have been able to know, because my every muscle in my body was paralyzed. We're talking facial expressions, everything. And I wanted to respond to her so bad, but I couldn't. And I remember wanting to tell her to move my legs because I was so uncomfortable, or to move my head to the side because I felt like I was going to choke on my tongue. I was aware of everything, and I was just unable to escape the shell that my body had literally instantly become. I was panicking and confused, and every attempt to respond was met with failure. So I began to mentally say the Lord's Prayer as a kind of mantra, if you will, to just kind of get my mind off of what was happening to me, and maybe in this like state of just a controlled state. But that paralyzation in the hallway lasted for about 2 minutes, and those 2 minutes felt more like 2 years. I ended up feeling the arms of my boyfriend lift my exhausted body into his arms like a rag doll and carry me down the hallway to our apartment. In that hallway, like I could hear the echo of his steps. I can hear it now, even just thinking about it, like the echo of his footsteps, the conversation between him and my mom. But it was like every step was a mile. It felt like it took forever to get down to our apartment door. And when I finally landed on my bed, I gained back muscle control, but basically had a panic attack. And that new intense emotion triggered yet another cataplexy attack. So I found myself once again trapped inside of my body, unable to move or speak. So my dad ended up carrying me out to the car, and we went to the ER. I was rushed back, and they gave me liquid IV fluids. I had a couple more minor cataplexy attacks in the ER. And when they realized that I was conscious during these episodes and I wasn't passing out or having a seizure of some kind, the word cataplexy was actually mentioned for the very first time. So I was released. I was told to go see a general practitioner and get a referral to a neurologist. That neurologist mentioned narcolepsy type 1, which is narcolepsy with cataplexy, and that I needed to go get a sleep study done. So that's what I did. So I got diagnosed at 17. It explained the symptoms that I was experiencing. I wasn't lazy. I wasn't going crazy. And as wild as it sounds, it actually, the diagnosis of you have this and these are the symptoms of it, kind of felt like I could gain some of my power back, because it legitimized my symptoms. And now when people would make comments, I could actually be like, actually, I have narcolepsy. So I gained what I would like to consider some of my power back with the diagnoses. For those of you who don't know what narcolepsy is, it's a chronic neurological condition that actually impairs the brain's ability to regulate the sleep-wake cycles. It affects 1 in 2,000 people, 200,000 Americans, and 3 million people worldwide. Oh my God, I've been telling you to do my slides, Julie. I'm so sorry. We're on slide 6, narcolepsy symptoms. I experience all of the symptoms that can come with narcolepsy, but not everybody does. And the degree of severity and like how often they happen can vary for sure. But the excessive daytime sleepiness is what I was experiencing, where I'm falling asleep every place and in between. It's periods of extreme sleepiness during the day that actually feel comparable to how someone without narcolepsy would feel after staying awake for 48 to 72 hours. And when I tell people this, it blows their mind and really helps with perspective. So just imagine yourself, if you don't have narcolepsy, staying awake for 48 to 72 hours. And that's how we feel basically every single day at some point. Cataplexy is the striking, sudden episodes of muscle weakness, which is usually triggered by strong emotions such as laughter, which is my main trigger, exhilaration, surprise, or anger. And the severity may vary from a slacking of the jaw or a buckling of the knees to what I was experiencing in that hallway, which was full muscle paralyzation, collapse. And the duration can vary, few seconds to a few minutes, but the person remains fully conscious even if they're unable to speak during this episode. Hypnagogic and hypnopompic hallucinations are visual, auditory, or tactile hallucinations upon falling asleep or waking up, and they can be pretty frightening and confusing at times. Sleep paralysis, which you may experience if you don't have narcolepsy, is the inability to move for a few seconds or minutes upon falling asleep or waking up, and it's often accompanied by hypnagogic or hypnopompic hallucinations. And this also is very frightening, confusing. Actually, the craziest symptom of all, honestly, in my opinion, because it's so contradicting to what people's first assumption of narcolepsy is unlike public perceptions, people with narcolepsy don't sleep all the time. It's the timing of sleepiness that's off with narcolepsy. So someone might fight sleepiness during the day, but struggle to sleep at night, actually. Insomnia, if you will. There's only two forms of narcolepsy. There's narcolepsy with cataplexy, which is what I have, and narcolepsy without cataplexy. Recent research suggests that narcolepsy with cataplexy is caused by a lack of hypocretin, which is a key neurotransmitter that helps sustain alertness and regulate the sleep-wake cycle. And there's actually less known about narcolepsy without cataplexy. Next slide. There's currently no cure for narcolepsy, and the treatment for symptom management varies by person, and it takes a long time to find the right combination of treatments. Us in the narcolepsy community, they actually call it a cocktail, and everybody's cocktail is different, so it's so personal. The treatments may include wake prompting or stimulant medications to increase alertness in the daytime, nighttime medications to increase deep sleep, antidepressant medication to decrease the occurrence of cataplexy, and scheduled daytime naps. My narcolepsy experience is a little more complicated given my other diagnoses. So I am not currently medicated, but I treat myself, if you will, with scheduled daytime naps and some of these coping strategies. So these are also very personal, and person to person will look very different, but it can include like social media, meetup groups in your area, improvement in general health and wellness through sleep, hygiene, diet, and fitness. So I am in all those categories: social support, the physical meetups, general health and wellness. So I'm very aware of my sleep hygiene, my diet, and my fitness. Next slide. So my career has been altered by narcolepsy. I stopped performing as an artist out of the concern that I would have cataplexy during a performance. My realization to this was actually during a performance. I was giving an intro to a song and started to get emotional internally, and I could feel myself having minor cataplexy episodes that only me and like maybe my mom would notice. And that was my last show I performed. In the studio, I sometimes start falling asleep while recording vocals. I'll take time out for a nap or uncontrollably fall asleep in songwriting sessions. And I'm very grateful to say that the people I work with are so understanding of that. So I'll take a little nap while they're doing something else with the song, but I've literally been like in the booth recording vocals, having what I like to call automatic behavior, where I'm singing and stuff, but I'm definitely not there. So songwriting took the front seat, and being signed to Sony ATV has given me really incredible and amazing opportunities. I've worked with some of the greatest songwriters and producers in the industry. I've worked in some of the most iconic recording studios. Westlake Recording Studios, which is where Michael Jackson actually recorded the album Thriller. I've written and recorded in one of Frank Sinatra's old homes that they actually renovated into recording studios by Max Martin. So that was really cool. I've helped develop some incredible up and coming artists in the States and internationally, and I've written and recorded about 50 plus songs and pitched to TV and film. I would like to think that being a recording artist is somewhere in my future if my symptoms get better managed, but for now, I'm very content with songwriting. I was looking forward to getting my driver's license, like any 17-year-old would, getting that sense of independence and just freedom that comes with that. But this desire became a fantasy as it became obvious I would not be safe in doing so. So I'm very thankful, but Lyft became my main form of transportation and still is. This isn't the case for all people with narcolepsy, the driving, but it is the case for me. And it still hasn't been able, I haven't been able to go and get my license or really even attempt to go get my license yet. And the cost of using Lyft kind of adds up quickly. So there is a financial burden there, if you will. As someone who's been a kind of poster child for invisible illness for more than half of my life now, I can honestly say that narcolepsy has affected my life in more obvious ways than my other diagnoses. And the reason that I'm saying this is, for me, narcolepsy isn't something that I can just push through, ignore, or hide from the outside world. I can only push myself so much before I'm overcome by my symptoms, and then it's obvious to those around me. In the early part of my diagnosis, there was a time when I felt like my joy was stripped away from me because of cataplexy. Fully feeling my emotions felt like a luxury that I could no longer afford. Sorry. The exhaustion, wow, I wasn't expecting to cry. I feel like I'm missing out sometimes. But, you know, at the end of the day, my life's amazing. But little things like at Thanksgiving when everybody's playing board games and I just can't keep my eyes open. Simple things that maybe I took for granted before, like going to a movie and staying awake during a movie. Things like that, I just sort of feel like I miss out on a little bit sometimes. I'm missing out on being completely conscious and alert, literally sleeping my life away, a good chunk of it at least, and not doing so by choice. But overall, in spite of all of this, I'm really committed to living a life in an active pursuit of purpose, happiness, peace, and fulfillment, whatever that looks like at any given time. And a lot of this is because of the mindset framework that I've had to build over the many years of just moment by moment awareness every day for many years. Next slide. On the outside, I look like the picture of health. I do my hair, I got a lot of it. I paint my face and I love to do it. I have an individual style. I wear high heels. So when you see my outward appearance and learn what I do for a career, I'm sure chronic illness is probably the farthest thing from your mind. And as you know, looks can be deceiving. So some days it's kind of a miracle that I'm even out of bed, not to mention working in one of the craziest, exhausting, most competitive industries in the world. I experience a constant baseline pain and have major symptom flare-ups from time to time, but I push myself daily and I keep my mind sharp. My family's never limited me, and I'm really so grateful for that. I show up to life, pulling all of my energy and pep from like pure passion and sheer drive. I'm constantly fighting extreme exhaustion, and some days I return to intense pain, or what I call being extremely aware of my body. And what I mean by that is like feeling every vertebrae in your spine, or surges of pain through your veins, things that you're maybe not aware of, deeply inhaling, things like that. There's days where I can't do much of anything and I have to give myself a lot of grace and allow myself to rest and heal. I'll feel like a mummy at the end of the day, like I'm going into my sarcophagus. My little bed is my sarcophagus, and I'm ready to just sleep for a million years. And when I emerge in my reincarnate body, like everything will be fine. But then when I finally do, I'm like ready to go back to bed. It's like I'm like coming out of my pyramid. I'm like, yay. And then I'm like, oh wait, I'm still tired. I want to go back. So it's an interesting little world that I live in for sure. Like first meeting someone, I often feel like it's necessary to make people aware of my condition because if I were to have a sleep attack or have a cataplexy episode, it would affect you. So when I'm sharing about narcolepsy and cataplexy, I'm met with a variety of different reactions and responses. They'll range from kind and empathetic to curious or blown away to plain insensitive, inappropriate, and honestly somewhat cruel. So the first reaction is usually shock and disbelief because I look healthy and I have a positive attitude, and I like to think I have a good sense of humor. So some people don't believe that I even have it, and they'll ask me to prove it by having cataplexy on the spot. Or other people actually find it humorous that I become paralyzed when I laugh. You may or may not know this reference, but there was a YouTube video that went viral of a bunch of little goats, and like when they get excited, they like tense up and fall over. So people make jokes about me saying I'm a fainting goat or something like that when it's really not that funny. They want to see it happen, and they'll try to make it happen to get their kicks. I've also had like complete strangers ask me inappropriate questions about intimacy regarding cataplexy. So it's pretty crazy. I can, however, say that thankfully, more often than not, I'm met with like encouragement and questions that lead to opportunities for me to help the narcolepsy community become better understood and myself become better understood. Because most people like either don't know what narcolepsy is or they have little to no understanding of what it really entails. And this is due to the lack of awareness and education of the disorder. Plus, there is such an unrealistic or a lot of the times like comedic, completely illegitimate portrayals of narcolepsy in media and entertainment. And this does not help either. It does quite the opposite. I've almost fallen off of a mountainside because of cataplexy. I guess you could say a t-shirt saved my life because my friend's grip on it was literally the only thing that had me from falling off Runyon Canyon. I began sinking, paralyzed, but conscious below the surface of a pool at a pool party. But I surround myself with people who are good people first. So I was supported by a friend in the water until I could regain control. But this is just a glimpse of what it looks like having narcolepsy type 1, what my life looks like having narcolepsy type 1. And it's always in the back of my mind to some extent. To flip the script, I extend myself a lot of grace, I stay motivated and do my best to remain positive, and my family is so supportive and encouraging. They've never limited me. They've never discredited or disregarded the severity of my diagnoses and my symptoms, and this is a huge reason of why I have the outlook that I do. I really feel like support and community is just as impactful and important as medication. So I want to be as supportive as possible by motivating and inspiring and encouraging others with chronic illness to not feel so consumed by their diagnoses and go boldly after the fullest life possible, whatever that looks like to them. Next slide. I'm one of the many faces of invisible illness, and I'm one of the many faces of narcolepsy. I go after life. I have career goals, personal goals, relationship goals. I push myself. I take care of myself. And I do my best to live a healthy lifestyle just like you do. Next slide. I'm lucky, though, to be one of the few to have received a diagnosis in a timely manner after my first major cataplexy event. Because of the low awareness, even among physicians, believe it or not, there's misperceptions, but there's an average between 8 to 15 years between narcolepsy symptom onset and then diagnoses. And it's estimated that the majority of people who have narcolepsy are currently undiagnosed or misdiagnosed. To go even further, the CDC National Center for Chronic Disease Prevention and Promotion says that it's 6 in 10 adults in the US that have chronic illness, 4 in 10 having 2 or more diagnoses. And they're generally incurable and ongoing, Chronic disease affects approximately 133 American, only 133 million Americans. So I'm sharing my story with you today because as people living with chronic illness, we really have to shed a light on what our lives are truly like to see change. Not only change in the medical community, in the public's perspective, but also in ourselves. Sharing your story is so powerful. And adversity comes in many forms. I mean, the root of overcoming any adversity is recognizing and believing first that it can be done. So I'm here to tell you that for 12 years, but most importantly, the last 5, I am fighting for my life every day. And I'm really proud of who I am. I want to be the kind of role model that I wish I had when I was 10. Every 10-year-old going through something should have someone to look up to. And I didn't feel like I had that. So I'm trying to make sure that I can give, another 10-year-old what I felt like I didn't have. I challenge not only the chronic illness community, not only people with narcolepsy, but everyone to live boldly and passionately despite unchangeable circumstances. This is such a great time to challenge yourself in this area. COVID-19, all of this stuff, live boldly, continue to live boldly and be passionate despite this unchangeable circumstance that we're all dealing with. I'm really inspired by some quotes of Viktor Frankl. He was a Holocaust survivor. I'm going to read some. It says, "The only thing you can't take away from me is the way I choose to respond to what you do to me. The last of one's freedoms is to choose one's attitude in any given circumstance. Forces beyond your control can take away everything you possess, except one thing, your freedom to choose how you will respond to the situation. If there's meaning in life at all, then there must be meaning in suffering. And when we're no longer able to change a situation, we're challenged to change ourselves." So I'm a speaker with Rising Voices of Narcolepsy program, which is a program of the nonprofit organization Project Sleep, which is run by the beautiful Julie Flagger, to empower advocates like myself to raise awareness, to raise their voice for narcolepsy, and efforts to educate the public, reduce delays in narcolepsy diagnosis, reduce stigmas, and so much more. So I'm just so grateful for this opportunity to share and educate and advocate and be myself and hopefully bring a little bit of change, spark a little bit of change somewhere. So thank you so much for your attention and your time today. These opportunities bring so much value to the narcolepsy community and my life personally. And this is what the start of change looks like. So thanks so much.
Yay! Great job. Oh my goodness. You had me crying.
Oh, Julie, I had me crying. I wasn't even expecting that.
Oh, great job, my dear. Thank you so much for sharing so honestly. And I think you have a great sense of humor. So I'm on the record.
I'm not the only one who thinks so.
I want to start. Thank you, folks, for sending in a few questions already for Kêta. I'm going to start with a few of my questions. And if you guys have questions for Kêta, please type them in on Facebook and we will get them over to Kêta. So my first question for you is, you did say that you currently are not taking medication for narcolepsy, like the standard, drugs, I guess, but I know that since you completed this program last summer, that you have been involved in some clinical trials.
Yeah, actually, when I met you was the first time I even knew that existed. And basically right when I got home, I was looking into it and I did a clinical trial. It was 17 weeks. It was really long. It was such a wonderful experience, but there's such an appeal to me, especially since I haven't been medicated, to be like on the front of new treatments. I also feel like I'm kind of giving back in a way by being a guinea pig. And, there's a lot of benefits to doing clinical trials, you're being monitored by some of the best in the industry. And I don't know, it's been really great. I'm actually gonna be doing another one. Probably I go in for my first appointment next Thursday, actually. So I'm all about it. I'm trying to, find my cocktail, and this is just part of it for me. But I really encourage people with narcolepsy to look into that, because there can be a lot of benefits to it.
Yeah, thank you for being part of clinical trials. I actually have not been part of a clinical trial. I've been part of research, but not part of a clinical trial. So I know it's a lot of effort.
It is a lot of effort, yes,
Yeah.
but it's so. I work with neuro trials here in Georgia, and the staff and I like have such a ball. I mean, just like laughing. Even like my sleep techs, when I go in for sleep studies, they're always. I look forward to it. They look forward to it. Maybe it's just because I'm me, and I'm like that kind of person who's like, "Oh my God, yay! How are you? I get to leave my house."
Well, I love seeing that that's been part of your journey, because I do remember meeting you last summer and sharing a little bit about what, could be possibly helpful for you.
Yeah,
And that's been a part of your journey now is very
changed
cool.
my life for sure.
Yeah. So I just had to mention about the games, because you said about, and I love the point that you made about you miss like little points of life, I mean that, right. And that's really, I actually was in a relationship where I felt like I was trying to blame that on my boyfriend, like that he was upset with me for missing like half of a movie.
Uh-huh.
And then he'd be like, I don't mind, I don't mind. And I realized after a while, oh, it's not him that's upset, it's me that's upset.
Yeah.
So I love that you bring out that point. I think it's so important. But I just have to share one anecdote of my own experience, is that I have a standing Friday night game night with friends. So it's a little bit of a humble brag right here. But I was super tired on Friday. I didn't get time to take a nap before the game night started.
Uh-huh.
And I got increasingly tireder, and I was going downhill really quick.
Trying to do your A game, trying to win, and then it's like, nope.
I was going downhill, but I apparently got funnier. So I actually won 2 games. And there's a group of 8 of us. So the fact that I won 2 games out of 4 that night, and I was going downhill, and the second game I won, I took a screenshot of me winning. Otherwise, I don't think I would have remembered in the morning that I'd actually won.
Like, so in it.
So you guys, you never know. Consciousness might be overrated.
Don't get me started. I'm waiting for it to become a superpower and me be like, oh my God, I'm actually just more evolved.
You are. We're more evolved. Okay. So sorry for my humble brag, but I'm just really proud of my game win.
Yeah, you should be.
Especially half awake. So the last question I have for you before we get to all the audience questions is, how did you find out about Rising Voices and get involved?
Oh my gosh. Well, who in the narcolepsy community doesn't know you first? You're like, I was talking to my mom. I was like, Julie's the patron saint of narcolepsy at this point. But like, I really, when I first got diagnosed, I mean, obviously changed my life. But I mean, like, I would feel like anyone would feel this way. I just felt like everything was taken from me in an instant. And I've been used to feeling isolated in the sense of I'm young and I'm, supposed to be in my prime or whatever from a health perspective. And I've really never experienced that. So for this to kind of be an addition, and for it not to be something that I can just smile and work through and pay for later, the need to connect to someone who, when I say, something about me being tired, the person's not just like, okay, and like, for someone to understand what I mean by that, and the weight of that, let alone, cataplexy, or if I, have a hallucination or something. It would be nice for someone to understand. So my mom found Project Sleep and your personal Instagram, and I just started following. And then when I, gained confidence in just me as a human being operating in life again, I was like, maybe I should start sharing. And my mom found the Rising Voices program, and that was just like a no-brainer for me. So that was fairly recent too. It was only a year ago. So I mean, it's taken me a long time to kind of learn how to live my life, what the new normal looks like for me. And when I finally figured that out, and gained the confidence back in myself and just doing life, I really felt like it was important to, like I said, be the person that I wish I had at 10. Try to be that person, try to be what you were to me for someone else. So that's how I heard about Rising Voices and Project Sleep. And I'm like so grateful and blessed to be a part of it.
Well, we're glad that you are. That's right. Now, as soon as you mentioned your mom is really good on social media. So
yeah, she's the best.
Yeah. So we have a question from Linda. She said, I appreciate and love your perspective about how you live your life, your incredible wisdom and your passion. I wonder about your creative instincts and gifts, and if being a person with narcolepsy plays into your songwriting and how you approach it.
So when it comes to the creativity part, I've been living with narcolepsy for so long, even if I wasn't diagnosed. I'm sure that it enhances or plays a part in my creativity or inspiration. I have written songs about specifically cataplexy. My first album was based on overcoming obstacles, basically every single song, which was derived from my experience with my health. So my dad was asking me the other day if there was any positives that has come from being invisibly ill, chronically ill, or just dealing with any type of like oppression of some kind. And at first I was like, are you like, how dare you ask me if something positive came? But honestly, it gave me so much perspective. I really truly believe in choice, the power of choice, mentally. So the daily practices that I've kind of instilled in myself of self-awareness and choosing how I'm going to see a certain situation has resulted in the creation of, like, my song about cataplexy is called Bravery. And it's just kind of like no one would know, and it can relate to a lot of different situations, but it's very much about my experience, especially in the beginning, handling cataplexy and what comes with that. So I would definitely say that it is a huge part of my creative process. Even just physically, I'm always having to kind of be aware of it, but I don't know, it's turned into a little bit of a blessing in disguise, but I chose for that to be the case.
Very, very cool. And I now need to go listen to the song like right away. I mean, I think I actually have, but re-listen. So, okay. So Ed asks, how do you deal with insensitive, negative people? Have you been able to turn anyone's perspectives around?
I turn almost everybody's perspective around. A huge part of my overall goal with public speaking in general, my niche, I guess, would be invisibly ill people, kind of advocating and educating. I really truly feel, and I'm very passionate about practicing mutual empathy and respect. So for that to happen, you have to educate the public on, like, you have to educate the public on what it looks like to live your life and have what you have, and no one know when you're walking through Target because you're not in a wheelchair or something, that it's not the same, it's not normal, so that when you bring stuff up, their reactions are what we would consider insensitive. But we also have to understand that because of their lack of education or awareness, that sometimes the reactions are just a reaction. Like, they're not thinking about all of the, what we might think of that. They're just like, what? Like, so, that's crazy. You're like a fainting goat. It's like, well, I mean, yeah, I guess if you want to look at it that way, but my life isn't, I'm not a goat, like, I'm a person, and it affects me in different ways. So when in addressing people who are a little bit insensitive or inappropriate, I just have to, for my own sanity's sake, not go about it as offended, because that usually doesn't help, actually. I'll just very peacefully correct them and give an example, and then explain to them why in the future, if they experience someone who, has something that they're not aware of or don't know what that life is like, to maybe go about it a little more just kind, I guess. Because I know for me, I would never say half the stuff that people say to me in regards to my diagnoses. So I just try to like make it so memorable, and peace is like super powerful. So if you're genuinely like, oh, like I know you didn't mean it that way, and I recognize that, and that's not even your fault, even because people don't know what narcolepsy is. And yeah, I mean, I guess I am kind of like a fainting goat, but someone else might get very hurt by that, and you might affect their life in a very serious way if you make comments like that. I feel like going about it that way are the moments where when they do encounter another person, they think about me and that conversation that we had. So I think that's really, really important. And, just like I said, the mutual empathy and respect on both ends. It's not your fault that you don't know, and that you just kind of vomited out whatever came to you first. And it's also, yeah, it's my duty to educate you in that moment. That was a long answer, but
well, it's really inspiring. I mean, I as much as I talk about narcolepsy, I actually probably imagine you, because you like you said that you have to inform people to be able to be around them, because my symptoms might be a little bit like more mitigated with my treatment, so I could maybe pass a little bit like as without people knowing. But I imagine you've had a lot of conversations, like you've
a lot. Every Lyft driver, every songwriter, all those things.
Yeah, so thank you for sharing that. And I think that's just a beautiful way of thinking about going forward peacefully and mutual respect. So
Yeah.
those were just really powerful. All right, we have a question from Matt. Matt says, with such a busy schedule, do you have a specific self-care outlet, exercise, meditation, creative activity, besides singing and songwriting?
I journal. I'm really big into like vision boards and law of attraction type mindfulness practices. I meditate. What else do I do? I mean, I'm like the queen of binge watching Netflix shows when I have time. I like to be outdoors when I can. Um, any chance I get to experience life, especially around people in a social environment, and just like experience people and be in the moment. I really cherish and take those as I can, while being aware of my level of exhaustion at a given time. And now I know my body so well, even though I'm not medicated, to be like, okay, well, if I take an hour nap right before I go, then I can usually make it through the night, and like maybe if I have a cup of coffee or something like that. So I really just love to be social and have fun and be around the people that I love to be around. And I'm very picky because I only have so much time, where I'm aware. So like I pick those people wisely because my energy is gold at this point. So yeah, I think that answers your question.
Yeah, that's a lot of good stuff. I
Yeah.
didn't even know that I love journaling too, and vision boards. Love that. Okay.
I literally have a whole wall.
That's awesome. Okay. So Juan wants to know, is there a reason that you don't take medications?
So the reason I don't take medication is a couple different reasons. First, the neurologist that I got diagnosed by actually ended up losing my sleep study results, so I couldn't apply for like Xyrem or something to that extent. That affected a lot of it. The other thing is because I have a complex case with my, Lyme disease and my fibromyalgia, I have to find balance in all of these different areas, right? So if I take a hardcore medication for narcolepsy, but it negatively affects my other diagnoses to some extent, is it really worth it? Um, so that's why I love doing the clinical trials, because I'm at the front of new treatments, but I'm also being monitored. Um, and I'm not paying for the treatment, like, that's great too, because then I'm kind of, seeing how stuff works and that sort of thing. But that's really a big part of it. Also, I have found a very wonderful routine for myself in regards of like when I wake up and knowing, if I'm awake for this many hours, and I should probably take a nap even if I'm not tired so I don't uncontrollably fall asleep, things like that. So I'm able to manage pretty well. The other thing to consider is my industry is very fluid. So I don't have to work a 9 to 5. I'm not on my feet all day, nothing to that extent. And even when I am working, I'm able to say, hey, like I need to take a 30-minute, hour-long nap, and I'm still being productive, which is weird. So that's a huge difference and probably plays a huge part in why I'm not medicated. If I did need to work a 9 to 5, I would have probably been on my own little cocktail many, many years ago.
Yeah, and I think your journey is still evolving. Like even if you think
Yeah,
of
definitely.
where you were a year ago, and I just I remember even like sharing with you that some of the things that like maybe a different doctor might have not told you about some of the conditions that you had and
Right. Yeah, that was crazy.
complexity, like that actually that might not be a problem, and that's part of like getting some of the expert care that you're getting now. So
Yeah.
I'm glad that, because not every doctor knows
One of
everything.
the doctors that like oversees the studies, he's going to take me on as a patient. So, it's just one of those things where everything's kind of happening the way that it's supposed to. But yeah, that conversation that we had that one, I was like, wait, what do you mean? This whole time I thought it would have been like, I don't know, detrimental to my other symptoms to some extent. But yeah, I definitely plan on getting on some medication in the next year after the study's done. um but it's really like you said, you might talk to one doctor and they say something and talk to another and they're totally different. So it's like just finding the right situation.
Mm-hmm. And then Linda asks, where can we get your album and listen to the song Bravery?
Oh no, here we go. So actually Bravery is not released because like I said in like towards the beginning of my talk, I'm no longer a recording artist. So I'll just play a little clip on Instagram after this if you guys are curious. But some of my music you can look up on YouTube, which is Who is Kêta is my YouTube channel. And I think on Spotify, if you look up Kêta, you can find me still. But I mean, I'm 22 now. That was when I was 16, so they're very old and they're great songs. But I just don't. I'm not an artist anymore. So, however, I am in the beginning of starting. I'm probably gonna do like probably 3 songs that don't tell, but like relate to narcolepsy to some extent as like an awareness project, and then do like a whole short film of the 3 songs to kind of portray that at some point. I mean, that takes a long time, but I'm really looking forward to it.
Yay, and we can't wait.
I think it'll be a really great tool to use, so.
Extremely, yes. Yay. Well, I think that's it for questions right now. We had a lot of questions. So thank you guys for tuning in and asking great questions. A+ to our audience and A+ to our speaker for such eloquent responses. You're eloquent and well-spoken and so real and honest. And we're just extremely, extremely grateful to have you in our community. So
Thank you, Julie. I'm so grateful to be part of it.
I guess with that, we will go ahead and say goodnight and hope that we didn't take too much of your energy and you don't feel it too much like a mummy.
My sarcophagus.
Yeah, she just added the mummy thing, guys, and she did this in our practice session, and I was like losing it. I was like, I love the
Yeah, but I would love to connect with everybody through Instagram and get a glimpse into your life, and you can get a glimpse into my life. I'm not like an influencer type where I post every day, but DM any more questions, anything like that.
Awesome. Okay, thank you, Kêta. Thanks,
Thank you.
everybody. And we'll be back again in 2 weeks. Oh, I do have one more announcement. Next Saturday, we are going to do a discussion, a first of a series of conversations about race, sleep, and health disparities. So we're really excited. I'm going to be speaking to a wonderful woman named Alida, and she will be sharing her story with sleep apnea and her journey to learn about her invisible and underdiagnosed sleep condition. So you should tune in. I think we're going to do that at 12 noon Eastern on Saturday. So we'll be promoting that this week, and really excited to just talk more about, minority health and health disparities. And it's such an important topic. So excited about that. So tune in for that. And then we'll be back again in 2 Sundays for our next Rising Voices presentation. Okay. Bye for now. Thanks again, everybody. Thanks again. Bye.